Greetings everyone and welcome back. In the last video we created our mockup in HTML for our dashboard, and in this video we're going to style up our dashboard. So what we're going to do first, we're going to get some fonts from Google. So I'm just going to go to Google Fonts, and from here I'll search for I'll be using Abel font. So this the font I'll be using, and here I'm just going to copy the link, go back to our text editor, and here in the head of our document I'm going to paste the font there. And what I'm going to do for the styles, I'm just gonna put my styles here because it's not a long style, but you can feel free to segregate or separate the styles from the mockup. But for now, for me, I'm just going to put the styles direct here. I can just decide to copy them later or not. But since it's not a very long style, I'm just going to put it just here. So what I'm going to do first, I'm just going to define some colors. So I'm just going to say colors. I'll put my colors here, and I'll vary the bootstrap colors and other properties that I want to override. So I'm just going to say root, and what I can do, I'm just going to define some colors and some properties that I'll be using. So the first one I'm going to say is green. Going to say green or success, but okay, I'll call it success. And the property, so I'm going to give some color for my success, and it will be pound sign. Then I'll have let me get the base one to be 2HC76 2HC76, and I'll put F like that. And since I am overriding bootstrap, I will say just pass some important. So this one takes precedence than the bootstrap success class color. And another one I'm going to say is the white, and for the white I'm just going to give the normal white. So that is 1 2 3 4. You can decide to put 4 or 6. I'll go with 6, and I'll say again important. Another color that I want to define is I'll have my background color. I'm just going to call it background background light color. So be background color, and the value for this is going to be f8 f8 f8. So f8 f8 f8, that's going to be my background color. It seems like white, but it's actually grayish. It's not completely white. Another thing I want to define here will be a transition. Let me just go ahead and define transition, and I'm going to transit on all sides within a period of 0.3 seconds for all the elements that will use this property. and I'm going to say just ease in like that. So those are some of the properties that I want to define, and now I can start styling my mockup. So what I'm going to do, the first thing I'm going to do is get the body. I'm going to style uh, my body. I'm going to say the background color, of course. So what I'm going to start with, I'm going to take the defined background light color, this one. And another thing I'm going to have is font family, and I'm going to pick the font that we just brought in, and I'll also define a fallback, which will be sans serif. There will be a fallback font if in case the other font does not it's not found. Another thing is font weight that I'm going to define, and I'll just give it 500. Font size will be 16 pixels for body. I'm going to save that. Let's go ahead and see. Now we have a background color being another color, not pure white like this. The color just be the color of the card is white. You can see your background color is summer grayish, the background light color that we selected. What something else I'm going to do, I'm going to mutate all the primary color class. So I'm going to say whenever I see a text color being primary, I'm going to change this class color to so the color that we defined, and this one. So whenever I type primary, I'm going to get a green color, and that is it. So whenever I have text primary, I'm going to have to get the text color of success that what we defined just above here. Another thing I'm going to mutate or change is background color or background class. If I have a background class, that will mean my background color will be that color that we just defined above here. So, and then are some of the classes that I wanted to mutate. So let me go ahead and now target the sidebar class that we defined. So sidebar section class that we defined, we gave to a sidebar section, this one here, and we're going to change some things. So I'm going to say background color, it's a color, but this time round is white. I'm going to have width which will be 220 initially pixels. I'll also define position, and of course it will be fixed. It's a sidebar. I will define height, and the height I want to take the height of the screen. So what I can do is I'm going to say 100 VH. That would take the height of the current screen that we are on, and also have some padding, and I'm going to have padding on all sides, and to be 15 pixels. Remember that padding is the space between the elements of or the children of a division, or and children of an element, and it's outside. So padding, it's an inward space. It's the opposite of margin, if you would say so. So what I'm going to say, I'm going to say overflow on Y to be auto, but the overflow on the X, that's the horizontal, it will be of course hidden. We don't want to scroll our sidebar horizontally, but we want to scroll it on the vertical axis in case it's full. So, and we're going to have text align center. Of course we could do this with bootstrap, but no worries, we can still do it around here. And what we're going to do, we're going to define some shadow. So box shadow, I'm going to have 0 4 pixels, then I'm going to have 24 pixels and 0, and we're going to define the color. It will be RGB, and for the red I'm going to have 3 4. For the green I'm going to have 4 1, and for the blue I'm going to have a ratio. I'm going to have 4 7. I'm going to divide this by 10%, like that. And of course I'm going to define transition, because we're going to toggle our sidebar. We're going to maximize and minimize our sidebar, and for that I'm going to have transition, and we're going to use the transition that we defined earlier. So this one is the transition that we're going to use here. I'm going to save, going to my, and we cannot see any change. But why is that? Well, that's because we have a wrong class. So the class that we have styles for is this one, but the class we are targeting is this one. So we're just going to update the class, and then if you look back now, you see we have our sidebar showing here, and it has a different color from the rest of the page. So this is our sidebar, and we, as you can see, it's now starting to style up. So let's go ahead and continue styling our sidebar. After styling our sidebar section, the other class that we're going to target is this one, the inactive class inside, and we're just going to have inactive. We're going to have width. We're going to reduce width to only 100 pixels, from 220 to 100 for inactive, and we're going to say justify content, and it will be of course in the middle. And padding, we're going to reduce to only 5 pixels, from 15 pixels of course to 5 pixels, like that. Another class that we're going to target is the sidebar title. So I'm going to say sidebar, and class sidebar title, and sidebar title for inactive class, like that. And we're just going to say width of 100, of course, width of 100. Going to save that. Another thing is the content of the sidebar. If you look here, you see that the content is hidden inside the this column, this card here. Although we're going to move the card outside, but we're going to give the content of the sidebar some margins. So we're going to target the sidebar content. So the class of sidebar, of course, is sidebar content. Going to have some margins on the top. So margin top, I'm going to say 50 pixels, and also I'm going to define some width, which will be 100%. It's going to take the width of the container it's inside, like that. So let's see. Yeah, like that. Now we can see that the content has some margins, and of course you can see our font changed. To change from the font that we had initially to the Abel font that we got from Google Fonts. After our sidebar content, we're going to style our main page. So main page section. If you noticed, our main page section is this one, but you can see this card here, it's inside our main page and it should not be on top of the sidebar. So let's go ahead and design that. And what we're going to do here, we're going to say width to be 100%, which is the full width of the page that we are currently at, minus 220, which is this one. So minus 220 pixels, so that it gives us the remaining, so that it doesn't sit on top of the sidebar. So that's the width of our main page. Going to give it some padding, which will be 15 pixels, and we're going to have some margin on the left. Margin on the left, I'm going to give it 220 pixels, and position, I'll say relative, so that we can align the children of this section the way we want them. For example, if we had a footer for this section, we would align the footer we will position the footer absolutely, then we give it bottom of 0. That means that our footer is going to be fixed on the bottom of the main content. So after giving it position of relative, what I'm going to do, I'm going to define some height, and the height will take the full screen height. And for us to be able to do that, I'm just going to say 100 VH. And of course, transaction, I'm going to have a transition whereby we're going to get the transition that we defined above, like that. So let's go ahead and save that. And it doesn't change though, but not to worry, because what we have here is main page section, And I think I named the class wrongly, so just going to say this one should be main page section. Let's try to save that. And now there we go. Now we see that our main content is detached from the sidebar. Our main content is now on the correct position, and let's continue. So after designing the main page, what I'm going to go ahead and going to also get this one, and we need to get inside this main page and look for class code in active. And what we're going to do with this class, margin left will be 100, of course 100 pixels, and we can remove all the others like that. Going to have a width of the same, and no, it's going to be 100% minus 100 pixels, and margin left will be this time round 100 pixels. So that is for inactive main page section. What I'm going to style next is the content section. So I'm going to have class content section. In the content section, what I'm going to do, I'm just going to give it a very long height so that we can test. So I'm going to say 1000 pixels that we can see the scrolling of the main content. And another thing I'm going to say is the overflow on the y-axis will be auto, but the overflow on the x-axis will be, of course, hidden. We don't want to scroll horizontally. And I'm going to give some margin top, and I'll give it 7 pixels as our margin top. I'm going to save that. And if we look at our page now, you can see we have a differentiation between our navbar and our main content and our sidebar. Now you can see we can scroll inside our main content page. But let's continue. What I want to do right now is I want to style our card. Remember, we have a card inside our main content page. So I'm going to have a card. I'm going to have some border radius on all sides, and I will say I'll give it 0.428 rem. That would do, and I'll give it ZI index of 10. Then what else I'm going to do, I'm going to say border none. As if you noticed, we have you can see we have border on our cut. What I'm going to say, I'm just going to say border none, like that, and I'm going to give it some box shadow. So, and it's the same as the other one that we gave on our sidebar. So I'm just going to copy this box shadow. I would have defined the class for the box shadow alone, then put it on every element that needs to use that box shadow. But no problem, this one will do. We can always do that one later. We can separate the box shadow class outside and apply that class on every element that needs to be applied on. So I'm going to save that. If I look at this now, you can see there is some shadows on our code. Very nice. What I'm going to do next is to design our navbar. That was our main content. So I'm going to I'm going to be designing our navbar section. So I'm going to have a class navbar section, and I guess it's navbar, like that. So let's start designing our navbar. First thing we're going to do is the background color, and we're going to give it the white color that we defined, and you can see it's now white. It has some white color. I'm going to say to give it some padding, and I'll have 18 pixels for the padding. Yeah, I think that will do. And something else I'm going to do, I'm going to have some margins. Before that, I'm going to define the position. Position will be fixed, that we don't want to scroll with our body contents. So I'm going to give it a fixed position, and I'm going to say from right, I want 18 pixels, and this one will be from left. Left, we need to have 208 pixels, so it's like margin from the left and margin from the right. And something else I'm going to do is border radius, and border radius is going to be sorry, I'm going to actually change the border radius to 428 0.428, same as for this one. And z index, I want it to be on the top, so z index will be, I'll give this one 100, so that it's always on top of every one of them. So, and I'm also going to give it the box shadow, and as I said again, you could define this box shadow as a class by itself and give it the shadow thing. You just insert it into every element that needs it, but for now it will serve as just fine. So that is our navbar, and as always with here, I'm just going to give it some transition. Transition will be the defined transition. So let me save that, go back, and now you can see we have our navbar displayed correctly. Now we have our sidebar, we have our navbar, our main content, and some sidebar menu and some navbar menu. If we scroll now, you see our navbar does not scroll with content of our page that we are currently loaded. Okay, what we're going to do next is I'll just style our submenu on the navbar to hidden for now. So navbar submenu, and I'm not sure if it's a sub, I think it's subbumps, navbar submenu, like that, one word. So what I'm going to do, it's going to have the same color as this one, and it's gonna have the same padding. Actually, it's going to have all the characteristics of its parent. apart from, of course, the position. So I'm just going to copy all this, put it here, and remove only this. The rest is just going to be as they are. We're not going to see it for now because it's inactive, or it's hidden by default, but let's just style it. So what we're going to style next is the inactive class. So we're going to say navbar, and going to have a nav section active. And what we're going to do with this one is padding. Going to say padding will be now, okay, padding will be now 18 pixels. And what we can do also is the right, we can give it 18 pixels, and on our left now will be just 118 pixels. From 238 will be 113 pixels. And now what we're going to do, remember we have these classes like the minimized class. So now I'm just going to say minimized, and what we're going to say is just display none. After that, I'm going now to design our menu items, and I will just say menu. Then we're going to get the item, and what we're going to do here, it's we're going to give it a color var. I want to give this one a dark color, dark. But remember, we've not defined the dark color yet. So let's go to our properties here, where we were defining defining our colors, and just here I'll say dark. And for the dark, I'm going to use let me just use 4B. That will be my, it's 4B, that will be my dark color, and it will work for now. So let's go ahead and use the dark color that we just defined now, and I'm going to say background color will be, let me just this one I'm just going to define. We've not defined this white smoke color. It's there by default as a CSS property value, and we can just go ahead and use it. Another thing I'm going to do here, I'm going to have a border radius of 6 pixels. Another thing apart from the pixels is the decoration. I don't want any decoration on here. And another thing I can have is padding. This I'm going to give it 10 pixels, and margin bottom I'm going to have 5 pixels, and then on the transition I'm just going to use the default transition that we defined earlier on, and that the transition that we're going to use on our menu item. I think we had our nav bar submenu somewhere. Nav bar submenu transition. Okay. So after that, what we are going to do is we are going to define styles for anchor tag. So I'm going to say before that we can just target the one inside here and we can say color will be the dark color that we just defined right now, and text decoration will have none, and font size will have 14 pixels. We're gonna save that, and after that, what we're going to do, I think we can just use this one. Looks like repetition. Just gonna use this one, but in case we have some other anchor tag somewhere, we're going to remove this one. We only want to target the one inside the menu, then the item class. Okay, what we can do, let's define what will happen if we hover on this menu item. Here I'm going to define some, and we say on the hover action, what we are going to do, we are going to change the color, and we are going to have white color, and then background, we're going to change background color, or just background. We're going to have success, and box shadow, we're going to have 0, then 4 pixel, then what should I put here, 24 pixel, then I'm going to have 0 RGBA, then for the red 248, then for the green 56, 109, and 25% opacity. Going to save that. I'm going to have another hover on the menu. Actually, I'm going to have it on the nav bar. Oh, it's nav menu title. Then when you hover on this, we're going to have color success, called the success, and our cursor, we're going to have it as a point. Going to save that. Let's see if that changes anything, and you see when we hover on this one, it changes from the color it has to the success color that we define. Okay, let's continue, and we'll change this one. This one's nav main title hover, and this one's just like it is, and going to leave that one as easy as well. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to have menu item over there. I already have. Let me just going to have a menu item because it's a class menu, then item, then we look for active class. And what we're going to do, we are just going to have okay, we're just going to have color is white color. Then we're going to have background as success color, and we're going to have box shadow same as this one. So another thing we're going to have is menu item active A. So this one, menu item active, then we add the ink tag for, then this one what we're going to have is only the color, and I'm going to say text decoration to none, like that. Yeah, and now we have that our sidebar, our menu. But it's not, we what we can do, we can just a bit style this one just a bit. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to, after our sidebar section active here, I'm going to say sidebar, it's a class, so sidebar title, and the title I'll give it some styling. I'll start with color, and it will be success. Then I have padding, I'll give it 8 pixels. Then I'm going to have font weight, I'm going to give it 900, and then I have letter spacing, I'll just give it 10 pixels. Then I'll have the size and repeat that pixels, and then I'm going to have position, and it will be fixed. Then I'm going to have left 0, and also top will be 0, and width would just be auto, like that. And now we have style our sidebar title, and you can see now, we can clearly see our dashboard is now clearly just the same as our dashboard here, only that now we do not have the actions, and these actions plus the image we're going to add there in our third section, where we're going to interact with our page using jQuery. So thank you very much for being with me on this one. We'll meet in the third part of this series, where we'll finish our dashboard by using jQuery to interact with the page.